On today's episode of You Asked, what is Samsung's intelligent mode and should you use it or not? Sony HT-A9 or maybe wait a little bit? What's the difference between Dolby Atmos Flex Connect and the Sony HT-A9? Does auto brightness limiter affect colors too? And the big one, LG G4 versus Samsung S95D. What are my predictions for this year's ultimate OLED battle? All that and more coming right up. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and this is You Asked, the show where I answer questions you asked in hopes that I can help you and others who have similar tech questions. If you've got a question for me, please send it to youasked@digitaltrends.com, and we'll see if your question gets picked to be answered on the show. We'll start with a question from Jenkins TV, who wants help deciding between the Sony HT-A9 with Sony's SW5 sub or a system that uses the Sony HT-A7000 Dolby Atmos soundbar with the same sub and a pair of Sony surround speakers. So Jenkins TV, I have two answers for you. One, between the two options you presented, I would personally go for the HT-A9. It's just a magically good system. The second option you listed is certainly no slouch, but I think you'll get better immersion with the HT-A9. The second answer is, maybe you wait a little bit. See what kind of new products Sony has in store for this year. Might be worth waiting. I mean, you'll still be able to get the HT-A9 if whatever Sony has that's new doesn't float your boat. I'm just saying, that's my educated gut feeling on the matter. Leslie Lemon wrote in wondering about the difference between the Sony HT-A9 and Dolby Atmos Flex Connect. Right, so in my latest video about Dolby Atmos Flex Connect, I did say Sony has something like this, but different. So let me elaborate on that. The Sony HT-A9 is a package system. You get 4 speakers and a little processor box that sends wireless audio signal out to each of the speakers. You can also add a subwoofer onto the system if you want. By contrast, Dolby Atmos Flex Connect is a platform, and it doesn't require any specific number of speakers. So whether you want to use your TV speakers and maybe one wireless speaker somewhere else, you can do that. If you want to add more speakers, you can do that too. There's no rule on how many speakers or how few you can use. There are also no rules as to where you have to put those speakers. The idea is you place them anywhere, and Dolby Atmos Flex Connect will optimize the sound based on how many speakers you have and where you put them. The Sony is similar in that it can optimize the sound pretty well, even if the speakers aren't in an ideal location, but there are limits to its technology. It still wants 2 in the front on the left and right, and 2 toward the back, also on the left and right. Flex Connect doesn't care. You put the speakers anywhere and use as many as you like. Does that help? I hope so. Flex Connect is very flexible. The Sony HT-A9 is not as flexible, but they both use audio processing wizardry to take less than ideal speaker placement and make the very best of it. Danny 75K writes, does ABL only affect white brightness, or does it also affect colors in large areas of brightness? Okay, so for those of you unaware, ABL stands for Auto Brightness Limiter, and it's a function of an OLED TV that keeps the TV from pushing the OLED pixels too hard for too long. It's a protection mechanism that used to be really aggressive, and now it is much less so. So much less so that most folks never notice it. And the short answer, Danny, is that it affects everything. In a WOLED TV panel, the white subpixel supports color brightness. So if you back down the white subpixel, you back down the color brightness too. In a QD-OLED TV, the only pixels that are being directly controlled are the blue OLEDs. The red and green quantum dots glow in intensity based on the intensity of the blue OLED. So when you dim the blue OLEDs, you dim everything. Next one is from Parker Wolfuk, who wrote in to say they got a Samsung S95C OLED and a Nakamichi Dragon. Nice setup. They've been using Samsung's intelligent mode picture setting, and they're wondering if I think it's a good idea or a good thing, or if they're missing something by not manually tuning the TV's picture. Thank you for your question, Parker. Now, folks, I'm gonna have to dig into this one, so if you just wanna skip to the big one at the end, feel free to use the timestamps in the description down below. But for those of you who are curious what Samsung's intelligent mode does, here we go. So the first thing to note is that intelligent mode is a suite of settings. And for your TV, Parker, it can affect both picture and sound, depending on which of the settings you enable. If you go into your TV and you click on All Settings, then General and Privacy, then Intelligent Mode Settings and Intelligent Mode, you should see the following: Adaptive Picture, Eye Comfort, Active Voice Amplifier, Adaptive Sound Plus, and Adaptive Volume. Adaptive Picture uses the light sensor built into the TV to brighten or dim down the TV based on how bright your room is, or how bright it isn't. In a dark room, it will dim the picture so it isn't uncomfortably bright for you. In a bright room, it will brighten the picture so it has more pop, even with all the ambient light around. It may also adjust the color temperature too, based on the color temperature of the light in your room. It also claims to use the type of content you're viewing to make adjustments, but Samsung doesn't disclose what the algorithm is doing exactly. Samsung would just like you to know and trust that it's making decisions that you will like. And it sounds like maybe it is working for you. Eye Comfort adjusts the color temperature of the picture depending on what time of day it is. It knows when the sunrise and sunset is, and it's going to reduce the blue light output, making the picture warmer so as not to mess with your circadian rhythms. It's the same kind of feature that you might find in your smartphone. Now, I'm not personally a fan of this blue light reduction feature that is the Eye Comfort setting, whether it's in a phone or in this TV, personally speaking. So I turned that one off. But Adaptive Picture, if it's working for you, you don't need to feel like you're missing out on anything necessarily. Reviewers do not use it when testing TVs because we've got to set a baseline for measurements, and Adaptive Picture makes the TV's performance kind of a moving target. We can't be having that. But to the point that maybe reviewers should talk about whether this feature does a good job or not, I think we definitely could do a better job about that. It's just that purists don't want to mess with anything that changes the image from what it's supposed to look like or what the creator intended it to look like. We want reds to be the right red and blues to be the correct blue and so forth. Now, moving on to the audio stuff. Active Voice Amplifier uses a microphone to figure out what kind of noise is in your room and optimizes the sound to project intelligible dialogue on the fly. The best demonstration I saw of this was Samsung running a vacuum cleaner, a loud one, while a movie was playing on a TV, and I gotta say, it was remarkably effective. Now, ideally, whether there's a loud faucet or dishwasher running in the nearby kitchen, or a loud fan or AC in the room, whatever, this feature is supposed to make dialogue more intelligible no matter what kind of noise is going on around you. Try it out, see if you like it. Now, Adaptive Sound Plus is one I'm less enthused about. It's supposed to analyze your room and the content you're watching and provide the best sound. And my experience with these sorts of things has really been hit or miss. Again, it's like a moving target. This is one I usually turn off, but again, definitely try it and see what you think. Adaptive Volume is pretty much what it sounds like. It takes a look at how loud or how quiet you usually set your TV volume and tries to keep the volume of what's coming out of the TV in that zone all the time. The only issue with this is that it robs the sound of dynamics, which can be a big part of what makes watching a movie exciting. Again, I'm not a fan, but it isn't about me, it's about you. Now, one thing I am not clear on, and I gotta go and check on this, is whether the TV is gonna apply any of that audio processing to the signal going out via your HDMI eARC connection and adjust the audio before it even gets to your Dragon. Personally, I wouldn't presume to tell the Dragon what to do, and I'd turn all the audio processing off. Otherwise, you're not getting what you paid for out of the Dragon. And now the big one for today's You Asked. Javi Richarte writes LG G4 or Samsung S95D. And Nobunaga Oda writes, I'm confused what to purchase, LG G4 or Samsung S95D. I mean, that may be the big ultra premium TV question of the year, right? Already a lot of great things being said about the LG G4 and the Samsung S95D OLED TVs. One is the brightest WOLED ever made with a bunch of tweaks and improvements over last year. The other, the brightest QD-OLED ever made with a somewhat controversial anti-glare treatment that has some folks all up in arms, although I personally think that's kind of unwarranted. Anyway, by now I hope that most of you out there watching right now know me well enough to know that I'm not gonna make a call before I fully evaluated both TVs and published a full review on both TVs. Hopefully, you know by now that there is no version of 2024 in which I don't put these two side by side and we hash out all of the difference between the two TVs. You may also know me well enough that I might call a definitive winner, or I might say X TV is best for these folks and Y TV is best for these folks. What I can tell you right now is that I predict it is going to be extremely close based on what I've seen so far. Unless the S95D does something so egregiously wrong that it's just unforgivable, which could happen. I'm not ruling out that possibility. I mean, there were some One Connect box issues early on in last year, and while I think that's been fixed, it could be something else like that this year. I don't know. Barring something like that, I predict that the S95D is going to be the best daytime bright room OLED TV because on the whole, its picture quality is outstanding from what I've seen so far. Well more than most people are expecting. And that anti-glare is so incredibly effective. I currently don't bat an eye at the idea of putting an S95D in a room filled with glass, letting sunlight pour right on in. With that said, from an HDR accuracy standpoint, from a gaming standpoint, and from an overall processing standpoint, the LG G4 looks extremely competitive this year. It's possible that cinephiles, hardcore gamers, and just the general TV enthusiast with deep pockets may find the G4 to be more to their liking. I will say with some confidence, though, that I think the real differentiator or differentiators between these two TVs, maybe even the linchpin for my decision, it's going to be in specific areas of the picture processing. I'm talking about motion resolution, upscaling and cleanup of low resolution, low bitrate streaming content and SDR cable TV, as well as near black performance. Those are the elements that I think are going to be scrutinized the most. I'll also add that I don't think one having Dolby Vision and the other not having Dolby Vision will be a deciding factor, and I suspect I'm going to need to show you why I feel that way if that's how I come down on it. But like I said earlier, these are just predictions, and I'm fully prepared to be wrong. I'll be looking at elements like I just described, but I'm not going to go in with an attitude where I'm seeking confirmation bias. If I'm wrong about that anti-glare, I will sit here and admit it with complete transparency. If we got fooled by an amazing demo and the TV doesn't perform here in my studio like it did at that demo, I will let you know. In other words, y'all are just gonna have to wait and see. And to preemptively answer your question, I don't know when those TVs are coming in, but I do expect them to be here very soon. They aren't on the way yet, but that only means they won't be here in the next 3 days. I do think they're gonna be here very soon though. And when they are here, well, trust me, I'll be sure to let you know the second they drop on my doorstep. Thanks as always for watching, everyone. What did you think of today's questions? And do you feel like weighing in? Hop in the comments section and let's talk it out. While you're down there, please consider clicking the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps out the channel and I do so appreciate it. I'll see you on the next one. And until then, here's 2 other videos I think you might like. Today's episode of You Asked is brought to you by the silent letter P, as in pneumonia. Want to sound like a 75-year-old who smokes 2 packs a day? Try pneumonia today.